What does careless driving include? Well, there's no standard definition of what careless driving is. It's defined in the Act as driving without due care and attention, but they don't really define what that means. In general, what it means is that your driving falls below what would be expected of a competent and careful driver. That's a generalized description of what careless driving is. If your driving falls beneath that standard, it's generally regarded as careless driving. That might include undertaking on the left-hand side, driving inappropriately close to someone in front of you, in other words known as tailgating, things of that nature. That's generally what's regarded as careless driving, but it's taken on a case-by-case basis, but it's not defined clearly in law. How many penalty points do you get for careless driving? Well, if you're convicted of careless driving, you will receive 5 penalty points and up to a maximum fine of €5,000. Now, that's an incredibly high tariff to pay. I've never seen anyone having to pay €5,000 or anything even remotely close to it. The penalty points, it's important to know, are not applied by the court. The judge doesn't apply the penalty points. They just apply the conviction if you're convicted. It's the Department of Transport that applies the penalty points, but it's not the court. But the points tally is 5 if you're convicted. Is careless driving a criminal offence? Yeah, it is a criminal offence, but it's treated slightly differently to other types of offences. First of all, it's a road traffic offence. Secondly, it's not an offence that requires intention. The prosecution don't have to prove that you intended to drive in the way that you did. They just have to prove that you knew what you were doing when you were driving. It's separated from other criminal offences because of the lack of intent required. Most offences require the state to prove that you intended to commit the act. In careless driving, intention isn't required. You can't commit theft unless you intended to steal. You can't commit deception unless you intended to deceive someone. You can't commit an assault unless you intended to assault them. But you can commit careless driving even if you didn't intend to drive carelessly.